So
Yeah, that's coming through.
is that coming through?
So we just need the
And
slide view. We've got the
yeah,
editing.
just hopefully there. Is that there?
That's it. Yep.
Great. Okay, so I mean, just very quickly, a little bit about myself. I've got quite a long history of working in sustainability and climate change. So I sort of started off way back in the early days of sustainability, Local Agenda 21 for anybody that remembers that. Um, and so mainly from sort of local authority background, but I've also headed up Climate Southeast. We used to have climate change partnerships when we had a kind of more regional approach. Um, and yeah, recently I had a role as councillor, sort of cabinet councillor, and been working a lot with community projects on e-cargo bikes, river health, a variety of things that I'm involved in. So I have quite a broad experience, which has been quite useful in these courses. I mean, it's something that I've only sort of really got into doing in the last couple of years. But what it means is that, if you've got any specific interests in, say, transport, rather than renewable energy, say, then we can sort of get into that into some detail. Done quite a lot of work on sort of renewable energy and energy efficiency, fuel poverty stuff in the past. But currently, I'm working with Community Energy South, who is one of the many community energy companies around the country. And this course was sort of developed as part of a bigger climate change project. So we got funding from the National Lottery. So it's grown over the last couple of years from what was a very carbon sort of literacy based course. And we're accredited by the Carbon Literacy Project. Accredited facilitator, and the course is accredited, but it's a bit broader than that. So it takes on wider issues around net zero, and also really increasingly important, I think, issues around resilience. I think for business especially, that's quite a big focus. It's not just about business continuity, it's sort of that longer term planning around how to be a resilient organization. So we've been funded, Community Energy South has been funded by the as part of the Prosperity Shared Fund. I think it's probably the wrong way around, but you know what I mean. From New Forest District Council to deliver these courses in the New Forest area. So it's really, in terms of the actual course itself, it's 3 hours, and it can be done online or face to face. There's sort of one break in the middle. It's very interactive and and very flexible as well. So, you know, if for instance you wanted to, if we look for a minimum of 8 people, and we will be posting some dates soon on Eventbrite. But if as a business, or if there was a business that you knew, or maybe a group of businesses who wanted to set up a specific course, then we could actually sort of shape that to meet your requirements a bit more, which I think it's important because it's got to be meaningful. I mean, there are obviously lots of things that are common to all businesses, but there are some things that are a little bit more specific depending on the sector that you work in. So, for instance, I mean, transport emissions are quite high in Hampshire. So, it might be a transport focus, or it might be around, obviously tourism is a big draw. I've spoken to the national park, and, nature-based solutions, obviously are playing an increasing role in tackling carbon emissions and increasing our resilience. So, I think sort of nature biodiversity can sometimes that can be quite a big focus of some of these courses. So, the essential outline is we look at the benefits of net zero for businesses, why it makes good business sense. There is then, I suppose, the climate science part of it, where we look at sort of the greenhouse gas emissions, what they are, where they what the main sources are. Really sort of look into climate hazards. I mean, it's impossible now to not turn on the news and see a big severe weather event somewhere, and the impacts that that's having. Obviously, we're expecting a storm quite soon, and for some parts of the country, I think Ireland, Northern Ireland especially, that's a severe weather warning. So, the increasing frequency and intensity of weather events, makes a difference to your business continuity and sort of planning and, and how prepared businesses are. And, obviously that will vary to some extent depending on the type of business you are. And then we will go into some detail around risk and resilience. So, what there are national risks. There's a UK climate risks assessment that's done every 5 years, and they've identified some sort of key risks. Some of those can be translated to businesses, but it's wouldn't say it's easy, but I think it's within the capabilities of small businesses to be able to do some sort of risk assessment, and that can be quite key. We do look at what is involved in greenhouse gas accounting or carbon accounting. So in terms of your scope one, two, three emissions and how you might use that to look at your priorities for action, how you might put together a carbon action plan, um, how you might monitor that. Obviously, it's the 3 hour course, so I'm not going to go into that into huge detail. Context for me is really important. So, it's really important to look at net zero and climate resilience in the context of other issues that are facing businesses and your customers, your community. So it might be around sort of cost of living, it might be around air quality issues and that wider sustainability. So, looking at it might be looking at sort of waste management, looking at procurement, that's just wider, broader sustainability auditing. We try and place it in that context. And then I think something that's becoming increasingly important is how people actually engage on these issues, and that's no different for businesses. It's the same for local authorities, it's the same for interest groups, it's the same for schools, how they actually engage on some of these issues and how you can come up with sort of better communication strategies, how you can frame messages. It might be whatever your business happens to be, what your sort of, I suppose, normal offers are, how you might frame that in a net zero context or using that language. And then we there are some interactive exercises that we do, some sort of workshops. So we do one around carbon ranking. So just starting to think in carbon terms, which is really important if you're obviously if you're sort of selling net zero as an advantage, I suppose, then you need to be pretty confident that how you're operating, what that means in terms of carbon. So, being able to kind of rank things is quite important. And then just pure and simple coming up with action plans. So we do an exercise where it might be that you've identified all staff are driving to work. How might you counter that with a sort of net zero solution? What are all the facets that are going to come up? And then, just looking to that support and signposting, obviously there's a lot going on in Hampshire and in the New Forest. Um, I'm talking to others about that. I don't know all the many. I'm sure you're much better acquainted than I am with other levels of support. But it's important that we're not repeating anything, and that we're sort of adding value and linking to things that are already happening. I mean, just in terms of the benefits of net zero and climate resilience. Obviously, for businesses, reputation. I think it could be a key thing. I think for those businesses that align themselves in terms of net zero, that can increase your market share. Um, it's just, and I've had this quite a lot over the years, working with different politicians. Sometimes I have to sort of change my messaging according to the particular political party that happens to be at the time. And sometimes it can be straight environmental message, but at other times it can be around efficiency. It can be around not wasting money. So there are different ways in which net zero can actually just be a better way of working. I mentioned around sustainability. It's joining up. It's about the interdependency. Obviously, really important to businesses is reducing operational costs, which, obviously saving energy, getting rid of leaks, drafts, renewable energy, solar panels, as Rob will know. These are, there might be some capital costs, but the return on that to a business can be, pretty quick. Um, and also just looking at sort of new revenue streams that zero carbon opportunities might bring. Um, that's tied into potential investment opportunities if new funding streams come along. Um, I think it's in terms of employability, it's a good thing. Um, I can't imagine it's ever worked against a business that being net zero is going to put people off applying. So, quite the opposite. And increasingly, policies are coming through. That we saw quite quickly with the new government. The focus on renewables and sort of turbocharging that sort of net zero agenda. So, obviously, internationally, there might be exceptions to that as of the last few days, potentially. But, in a local sense, in a national sense, it's good to align to those zero carbon policies coming through. And with climate change, climate change has its severe weather, and I feel this quite strongly is that there has not been, even though there's been an emphasis on carbon targets and meeting net zero targets, and whatever the buzzword happens to be, there just has not been enough focus on resilience and adapting to climate change. There is a certain amount locked in. We're kind of going in the wrong direction at the moment. Um, but actually being, increasing your resilience, thinking about, how your supply chains are working, thinking about impacts on your operational efficiency. There's simple things around, what happens with the flood. How might that affect you? You don't want to think about that when the flood is happening. You want to think about just the precautionary principle is a brilliant principle that is not used very often. So it is about planning. It is not being reactive, and not being disruptive. And essentially, I suppose, for a lot of people, it is just the right thing to do. It's just, there is, just in terms of sort of ethics, morals, more and more people are sort of, if you look at the studies around the acceptance of climate science, the evidence is unequivocal. And, and I think people feel like it's the right thing to do. Um, I just wanted to just leave you with a couple of slides. These aren't sort of, this is not kind of like trying to depress you or anything in the last few minutes, but it was just to, I last year I was using slide 2023 and talking about that as being, record, and just the number of events, just, massive. And the last year has trumped that, and probably trumped is the wrong word to use, but it is something that's happening with increasing regularity. And obviously we had the floods you can see at the top there, or in Wales, and at the end of this year, sorry, at the end of last year, and then at the beginning of this year, we've wildfires in California, and just when and Valencia there, you can see on the bottom right, and these are not, I don't put these photos up just to shock you, but it's just, when you think about it in a kind of in a fairly mundane way, around as a business, you're sort of thinking, well, insurance, in all those pictures, there were businesses there, and obviously there is a, there's only so much you can do. But I'm sure in a lot of cases there wasn't, there just wasn't anything that was done, and insurance in the insurance industry, it's no mistake that they cottoned onto this, a very long time ago. Um, and I think when you move closer to the UK, this is there's a guy, Ed Hawkins, who has done some brilliant infographics. He does one that we use around, it's called Climate Stripes, and it looks year on year since the Industrial Revolution, and you're basically running out of shades of red. It's almost black now, because the trend towards global warming, towards a hotter climate. This is showing the trend in this country, towards, certainly in the winter, towards wetter climate, wetter winters. And we have just had that. And again, this is all going to be very location specific. So there are things that will be an issue for Hampshire businesses that will be less of an issue for for businesses in other parts of the country. So this is just to sort of illustrate that, this is sort of happening. And and hopefully through this course can just at least give you a sort of indication of some of those areas that it's sort of good to focus on. So I think that probably is enough from me. Stop sharing. There you go.
Great. Thank you very much, Matthew. So, we've got any comments or thoughts from around our audience? Astrid.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew. That was really interesting, interesting about the course very specifically. Obviously, the rest of it is grim, and I loved the intentional or otherwise pun about it being trumped. That just appealed to me on so many levels. In a can't remember, don't hear the can't remember bit, Matthew, because I know I should know. But in a couple of weeks or so, months maybe, I'm doing a masterclass on leadership in this space. One of the things I would love to be able to say to the assorted folk who do turn up is, and you can go and do this course here. How do we access the details of the course that you've mentioned? And then, separate question, this is probably for Matthew and Rob. How does that sit with the stuff that Kirsty's doing in February? Because we need to make sure that all the courses and all the training and everything is joining up to make sure that it has massive impact. So if I could ask Matthew Bird to answer first, please, and then then the other one is probably a bit of internals for us.
Okay, so we're still talking to New Forest District Council. So hopefully the course dates will go out soon on Eventbrite. And and it was something I was actually going to flip around and ask you in terms of, and so I'm glad you mentioned the second bit around sort of alignments, around whether there are particular times or formats, whether we could link with anything else that sort of might work. Because yeah, it's a course that can be done online or face to face. So it's kind of
Yes.
what suits. So there will be a series of dates that will be put out there. And the simple thing is that, as soon as we get 8 people that have signed up to it, it will happen. If we don't, then we will try and sort of take people from that one on to the next one, if that makes sense.
Is it fully funded?
Yes. Yeah. So it's
Okay, because
free. It's all, sorry, I should have said that. It's all free.
that is hugely important
Yes,
for
I should have led
beleaguered
with that.
SMEs. Okay.
Absolutely. I think it's in the blurb. I just get so used to doing things for free. I never mention it. I'm just kind
Indeed.
like that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yes, it
Thank
is
you.
fully funded. I mean, we have a target number of people to reach. Um, so yes, in three. We will have a set number of courses set up. We'll put the dates out there pretty soon. If you've got any feedback on that, that would be really good. But also, as I said earlier, if you want to, if anybody's got any suggestions, or they want to set up a specific course at a time that suits them, anytime that can be done as well.
Okay.
Obviously, for me, it's easier online, but I'm
Yeah.
really, happy to do face to face as well.
Okay. That's really helpful. Thank you. Because obviously I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to be saying to people, and I'm telling you, you ought to, but this is how you can. And
Yeah.
that's the nice bit that we will be able to offer. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Just to answer the point about sort of repetition, duplication, and everything else, it's a bit like the proverbial eco bus. They're all coming along at the same time, and NFDC through Kirsty Gray at Solent Business Skills and Solutions has funded this opportunity that we're putting on the 13th of February.
Yeah.
And that's a full day on net zero, which is fully funded. So that opportunity is there. You kindly, Astrid, are going to speak the following month and
Yes,
pick
it
up
is March.
some of the sort of sustainability leadership piece there. And then what Matthew's offering is available for people to plug into sort of, it's not an event happening here, but it's just part of the menu of things that are available. I suppose what is good is better that there's a lot available, and we're talking about this a lot rather than not talking about it at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to have to go in a second. I'm losing sound, but just to say, if I may, Rob, quickly, Emma's on next week. She's smiling and ready for that. She's going to be talking to us about the important work of Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance and explaining all the good things they're doing and how businesses can get involved in supporting that. So I'm back in the UK then, Emma, so I should be able to. Well, you can't guarantee the New Forest is any better than halfway around the world, but hopefully I will see you online then. I'll let you wrap up, Rob, but I'm rapidly losing signal, so I'll disappear in a moment. But thanks, Matthew, as well.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Matthew L. We've actually been hearing you loud and clear for the last couple of minutes, so that's been good. But yeah. So, Astrid, is there an event that you need to be mentioning in March?
Well, it's there are some of these kind of business masterclass
Yeah, I can tell you.
things, and the one that Matthew's kindly invited me to do is it's building on the talk that I did at Chewton Glen, which is basically understanding the leadership mindset that is needed to get people from A to B, and how the costings around that work, how the courses around that, how the training around that, how the recruitment, just basically the leadership thought piece. And that is going to be in March at Belmar Lawn. And
Yeah, 13.
yes, 13. Thank you. I get so confused between that one and Kirsty's one. It does my head in. Anyway,
I know. Yeah.
February, March. Need to tell them apart as dates.
Yep.
need to-
I got it.
And the beauty of that is that then, with this course that Matthew's just told us about, and it sounds like one that I would definitely want to do, being able to say to people, if you want to know more and send some of your people or do it yourself, go on a course, you can do this. If you want someone to hold your hand through all your GHG stuff, all your scope emissions, all the malarkey, then we know people who are within the forest, Nancy Hine and others, who can help with that. So we've got that. We've got a People Planet Pint in the New Forest. So we can do that if people want to be social about it. And then there are these community organizations. If you want to get involved, you can do that. It's just knowing so that I can signpost on the day. So, I think that would be really, really good. Matthew, is there something that's easily assimilable, downloadable, printable that I can point people to?
Yeah, I think I'll have a look on our website. I'm not sure what's on the website at the moment. That we've got stuff around our climate literacy training. I don't think it's updated because I've really started to kind of reframe the carbon literacy, climate literacy as climate literacy and resilience. So we're taking
Indeed.
zero resilience because
Indeed.
I suppose I just think that's so important now, and I suppose
Yes.
that would be our USP to some extent.